これがレクイエム。
What's up YouTube, it's your boy Sho back with another video, and today we're talking about Final Fantasy VII Remake, but a little bit of Crisis Core. So in case you guys don't know, Crisis Core is basically a PSP Final Fantasy VII which takes place before the events of the actual Final Fantasy VII. It follows a whole different member of Soldier named Zack, and it basically just has a whole different storyline that leads up into the events of Final Fantasy VII. It's a really great PSP story. Honestly, it's probably the best story for a PSP game I've ever seen, really. You know, it felt like an actual high dollar Final Fantasy game, but on the PlayStation Portable. Now, the thing is that with the Final Fantasy VII Remake having multiple parts, could we see some of those parts include like the stuff from Crisis Core? Yeah, even though it's one of my favorite PSP games, I always kind of wanted like a remake of it just so that everybody can kind of experience the story. I gotta say though, it would be kind of interesting to see one of the Final Fantasy parts become like a Crisis Core, like in the beginning they actually do the Crisis Core story. Maybe they'll have to cut it down. Hopefully they don't have to cut out too many parts because it was a full-fledged game. But it would be nice to see how they handle, you know, Jill and everybody, Sephiroth's origins and stuff, and basically Zack and, you know, his relationship with Cloud. It would be interesting to see how everything kind of boils down, because in reality, with the Final Fantasy VII Remake having multiple parts, like I said earlier, it has a chance to kind of adapt some of them video game sequels, like Dirge Cerberus and stuff. It has the ability to actually include those. Like, say we had like two parts, like two more parts at least, you know, and one of the parts could actually take place in the beginning of the game. It could do Crisis Core, then you can actually finish where Cloud and the gang left off in the first part, and, you know, just kind of go back and do a prequel type thing. It'll be actually really interesting to see like that whole story remade in the new Final Fantasy VII engine. That would be great. Yeah, it actually came to mind because I was watching the video and they were talking about how the actual project popped up saying something about you know, Crystal of Crisis or something like that. So it actually kind of made me think, you know, they really could remake Crisis Core and put it in the actual Final Fantasy VII. Like I said, they'll probably have to cut certain parts, and it actually could all work out. Maybe you can cut some of the parts of like certain people's origins and kind of have it meld into Final Fantasy VII Part 2. It'd be actually really, really interesting. I don't know if that's something they would, you know, want to do, considering that, you know, Final Fantasy VII has a lot of different, you know, sequels and movies and stuff with it. It's probably one of the most famous of all the Final Fantasy games, to be real with you. Now, I made a video talking about what Final Fantasy Part 2 could actually drop in 2021. And I still think it could. I think it's possible. You know, hopefully we don't have to wait long for parts, because in reality, it's such a great game, but having the game separated into multiple parts, and we don't even know how long, you know, how many parts it's going to be. What if it end up being like 4 or 5 parts? Yeah, it'd be cool, but at the end of the day, I'll kind of get burned out on it, you know, with having like 4 individual split up games. And, you know, eventually I'll wait to buy it when they actually come with the, you know, inevitable, hey, here's the whole, you know, Final Fantasy part pack where it's got like 1, 2, and 3 all in one game or something. You know, eventually it's gonna get to the point where I'm just gonna end up playing that instead of playing all the parts separately. I really enjoyed Final Fantasy Part 1, you know, 7 Part 1. I really did enjoy it, but there were some things that kind of, you know, kind of turned me away, but there was a lot of things I actually liked. Like I said, this is not a review of Final Fantasy VII, so I'm not gonna get into that. If you want to hear my thoughts about Final Fantasy VII, you can drop a comment below and I'll make a video about that. But for me, it was a good, solid game. It was actually kind of amazing, but I don't really like how the story isn't finished. When I play my Final Fantasy games, I like for it to have like the definitive ending right then and there. And I mean, it's not saying that it's not a great place to end it, but you know, knowing that there's more to the story out there kind of makes me want the more. And we don't know how these parts are coming out. I definitely think one to drop in 2021. Then maybe we'll get one in like 2023. It'll probably skip a year, but it shouldn't actually take that long since they actually have the engine and stuff. It's really about designing the game now. They really have all the like mechanics and stuff down pat. Like I said, it's really about designing everything else. So hopefully we can get that done in a shortcut, you know. And I'm actually willing to wait as long as possible though. I hope they take their time and just really try to focus on making the game as crisp and pristine. Even though for me, you know, I don't know if I play like a couple days after launch. So for me, it was actually smooth. And that's really weird because considering that games can come out smooth and very playable and look beautiful. I know we talked about Cyberpunk a lot this month, and you know, we talked about Cyberpunk since it came out, but it's really a love letter to games that actually look amazing on base PS4 and is able to play perfectly. I definitely will go here and talk about more videos about Final Fantasy VII. I really wanted to bring up that subject about Crisis Core being maybe a part of it, mainly because I feel like it definitely could see some fruit born into it. I mean, I could see why they would want to adapt their storyline. It's such an amazing storyline. So, let me know, guys, if you think that would be a great idea. If they should somehow adapt it, or you know, make a whole Final Fantasy part, like redoing that part over. It'd be interesting to see the things they change with Zack and Cloud and their relationship. Like I said, if you like the video, guys, go ahead and throw me a like. If you want to see more videos about Final Fantasy VII, please drop me a comment down below. I love talking about Final Fantasy. I love talking about everything Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy VII is probably like my 4th favorite Final Fantasy game. That's mainly because of nostalgia reasons. It was one of the ones I played a little bit later. Like the original one is probably like my 4th. If I had to rate the new one out of like the newer ones, it'll probably be like my 2nd. Because I honestly like Final Fantasy 15 and 7. I feel like 7 is really good, but without the other parts, it's really pointless to me. So with that being said, guys, we're gonna do this again. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next video.